Today we are going to discuss a very important topic called colonialism. According to a dictionary, it is a policy and practice of a strong power in extending control over other people or areas. But before going to the colonialism, we have to understand imperialism because imperialism and colonialism is a two sides of the same coin. The term imperialism comes from imperium. It means to have control or command. A colonialism means colonia. It means a place for agriculture to settle in a foreign land or soil. And as we have learned that imperialism precedes colonialism. So, coming to back to the colonialism, it is a kind of a process or situation where a different community takes over a new place, commanding or controlling the people over there. Imperialism is a theory in comparative politics, and colonialism is execution or implementation of it. Colonialism can manifest itself in political, economical, socio-cultural domination. Like post we had post and we have still have post-colonial thoughts studies, which does not need necessarily direct control, but still we have. While imperialism needs direct control, colonialism not necessarily, but it manifests itself in political, social and cultural milieu. But as we have seen, imperialism precedes colonialism. Imperialism needs military might. So, coming to types of colonialism, there are basically five types of colonialism. First is settler colonialism, like USA, Australia. As we all know, US got independence on 4th July, maybe 1776 7. The people from British and other European countries settled there, established their colonies. The first colonies was in by the Dutch near current New York, and we all and another other example of settlers colonialism is Australia, where we know how the kind of jails were established by British authorities to keep the antisocial people there as a punishment. As population grew and they were kept outside of the jail as their tenure has ended and they were not willing to come back, they decided to settle there. Another is exploitation colonialism. The perfect example is India, Indonesia, Egypt. Third is surrogate colonialism. Here it does not. Here the power, the colonial power, does not extend power himself. Rather, it surrogate to another. Like example is Israel. Before Second World War, the country of name Israel doesn't exist. In 1948, British decided to create a new country called Israel and asked the Jews all over the world to come and settle as their fatherland. And this created the issue of Israel and Palestine. Another is internal colonialism. Here examples are is Ireland and Catalonia. So as we know, Catalonia is a province of Spain, where Catalonia has its own parliament, where the people and the their representatives thinks that Spain's economy is run by their money. The taxes they pay are used by Spain government for enriching other areas rather than spending on Catalonia. In recent news, in 2017, the Catalonia Parliament had a referendum where it decided to secede from Spain, but the Constitutional Court of Spain declared it unconstitutional. And Catalonia region is very prosperous and advanced, so it's they feel that it's on their money the Spain government is run. And another example is Ireland. As we know, the maximum governor generals of India were Irish. Ireland has the same issue. It has own freedom movement till 1970s, 80s. The Irish revolutionaries were suspected of killed. They even threw bombs like on their in London. So we had a total four. By mistake, I have said five, but four types of colonialism. Another example from India we can quote is not exactly an example, but for to better understanding. Nothing. It's a bit controversial, but for better understanding, we had freight equalization policy in 1952, where the government subsidized industries to be settled located anywhere, and mineral will be transported by the government fully subsidized. So we had regions like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Bengal, Assam, where the minerals were grown, mineral rich state, still they are mineral rich state. Their development was derailed, and the coastal regions like Andhra Pradesh, places like Vishakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, coming close to south we have Tamil Nadu. These port regions were developed because industries were kept laid down there. So we had a kind of a haphazard growth. Some mineral rich producing states were not developed, and where the factories were established, they developed. So it is a rough example for nature of colonialism. That too, in this time there is two terms. One is metropolis, another is colony. Metropolis, as we know, it's a urban conglomerate, and colony is a periphery. It's a theory in political science, world system theory, where there is a core and there is a periphery, and the countries lying in the core developed, and the countries lying in the periphery are underdeveloped. As told by the theorists, the core develops on the back of the periphery regions. So, rise of nature in the nature of colonialism, we have rise of metropolis and colony, and they have an inverse relationship. One grows, and another don't grow, or not as much. So we can say there is a region which, due to some factors, external or internal, it grows in it, and it outgrows the others lying periphery to it. So there is a rush of capital, there is rush of manpower to the core, and it booms. There is a big development going there, and then the periphery there is no such development, whether in like in infrastructure, in social amenities, education, and likewise. So, and as we know, the concept of globalization has always existed. In ancient time, we had trade between Indus Valley to parts of to the parts of Syria, Egypt, and Arabia. But this concept has grown fully grown in 20th century. Here also, the in the period of colonialism, the colony was integrated into world system, world trading power without industrial development. So what we had a few regions, metropolis. They would take the mineral resources of the colonies and they would develop, leaving the colonies fend for themselves. Example is cotton crisis. We know when there was civil war in US and cotton was not much produced, so there was a boom in cotton production in India. So many cotton growing regions emerged. There were money lenders spending money getting cheap cottons from interiors like in Deccan. And then when the civil war ended, the boom in India collapsed. They were farmers have taken the loans to produce cotton, and cotton can't be eaten. It was cash crop. You needed a market, but you can't. You do not have market. So market collapsed, and we had a Deccan agriculture crisis, Deccan famine. We had in 18 near to 80s, where there were many severe it was severe famine, no food. Coming back to the colonialism, the essential features are complete subordination of and complete subordination. That is the primary and the needs of the metropolis, primacy of the needs of the metropolis over the periphery. Economic exploitation of the colony. Appropriation of colony. Economic surplus. British industrial revolution, especially the Manchester cotton Manchester companies, especially based on clothing, cotton, they grew while India, the producer of cotton, suffers. As it is said, the colors of Manchester's cloth is due to the bloods of Indian farmers. And the three viewpoints regarding the colonialism is this: that first, those who apologists of colonialism, they say colonialism was not as bad as it was shown by the Marxist faction of the history. Another said it produced dualistic kind of society, where some sectors of the country were kind of in comparative were little modern, advanced, and another many sectors of the country were still pre-capitalist, pre-modern, traditional. So we had few sectors like cotton sectors, jute sector, and then we didn't have much advanced technology in iron. And another example I would like to quote this: must have heard of Yale University in America. The one of the prime benefactor of Yale University was uh, Yale. His name was Yale. He was the governor of Madras, and he was removed. He was he was the president of the Fort St George, and he was removed because of his corruption charges. So you understand, the people who were embodied there in India were rich, grown rich, they established their empires. Now we come to the stages of colonialism. We have to understand there is no a single one continuous unified structure of colonialism. It goes through several stages. Sometimes one stage or two stage mixes so much. You can't pinpoint where the stage 1 ends and where the stage 2 starts or stage 3 starts. So it's like a continuous, it's like a process. Subordination is the only constant thing. Primary focus of the colonial power is subordination. It, but forms change and evolve from stage to stage. Example we can give East India Company. It was a trading company, then it became the conqueror. If we take what we have taken the assumption in the changes and the forms evolve, different stages in different con- colonies in different time period. So it means that they had each colony in each time frame it not necessarily correspond to the another colony in another stage. So example we take example if in stage 1 is in India, not necessarily the same time period there is a stage 1 in Indonesia or Egypt. Another thing is there is no clear cut boundary where one ends and other starts. Basic structure remains the same, its character evolve as I have told you, from trading company to conqueror. So three distinct stages in colonialism in India is: first is period of monopoly, trade and direct appropriation, or East India Company domination. The period is 1757 to 1813. 1813 when the act came, which we will discuss later. The two basic objectives of this period is monopoly of trade with India. So what was needed in this thing? First, other English companies, merchants were sidelined. They were not allowed to trade with India. That is exclusive trade with India. So for this, they get a royal charter from Queen Elizabeth 1600, trade exclusively with India. So they have removed internal challenge. Another challenge vis-a-vis other European powers or merchant or trading corporation. For this, they have to wage a war. They wage war on land, sea. We have heard of Anglo-French War, Anglo-Dutch War. So in this way, they have removed two obstacles. Now the third obstacle is Indian merchants, Indian rulers. For this, they had also waged war. That is direct conquest, dealing directly with farmers and weavers. Here, political conquest came handy to the East India Company. Okay. Second objective was take over governmental revenues through control state power. The company required huge resources to wage war on land and sea. We had so much many wars before actual control of the East India Company in say in 1773 or 1780s. Even after that we had war, Anglo-Maratha War, Anglo-Mysore War, Anglo-Sikh War. But you have to understand, this was the point, the Battle of Buxar, where the company's character has changed. Now it start thinking as a conqueror, start political conquest. There are many writers that says East India Company wanted to rule. They were a trading entity and they wanted to trade directly with the people, weavers. But as when they were coming to and rule and getting things from India, they realize the situation is ripe to control. They can use this political conquest to to get resources, to have money to fight wars. They needed money to fight wars. No country can wage war without resources. And that in that period, when the trading was started by East India Company, they needed something to sell, and India didn't needed anything that British manufactured. So what they have to bring bullions, the golds and silvers, and this was proving costly for East India Company, as that time English government were practicing mercantilist theories. In this theory, a country is a kind of protectionist theory. Countries have to to country grow and prosper, they needed more export, less import. So when the country is selling out golds and silvers, how country can grow? So there was a kind of a country. British government was not okay with giving golds and silvers to company to produce to wage wars. So East India Company had to do something. So they think of start waging wars so that they can have direct political conquest, and from this they can gain money, and now that which can they can use to purchase the goods. Hence, both objectives were fulfilled with the conquest of Bengal, in Madras, and later in the rest of India. At this stage, there was a huge export of Indian textile. You understand this when the thing started. Uh, Weavers and farmers were happy. They were getting a regular supply of money by selling their goods. Even rulers were fine. They were getting money. That's why the initial all the rulers, whether rulers from Madras or Bengal, they encouraged European companies to come, because the things were going fine. They would get revenues, and the farmers will have to got to sell their goods at a same good price. But as and when the political conquest, they realized how there was deterioration of Mughal Empire, the strong centralized authority, and rise of here and there of small rulers, whether in Bengal or in Mysore or in Madras. They was not not to the match of the Mughal rulers. They were dealing directly with such rulers, autonomous rulers. So there was, when the British conquest was going on, weavers were not ruined by the British imports, because this was the first stage. The ruining of weavers by uh, huge influx of British import was in second stage. Here was weavers were happy, they're fine. Issue was not happy, but issue was their exploitative characteristics. They were exploited by selling their goods at cheap prices, because company needed cheap imports, so they can send these goods to England. As we have shown we have read in how Indian fine cloth muslin were so much loved in US, so much that it is imposed. British Parliament imposed taxes, and even there was a instance when there was a lady was fined who's having a Muslim handkerchief. In the first stage, there was a element of plunder and direct seizure of surplus. Large number of government officials were appointed to because the collection of revenue was a humongous task. They needed many people, so their salaries and pension were paid out by the revenues of the East India Company, and for this another uh, some resources were needed, and it was an extra expense for East India Company. So there was fight amongst the aristocratic families of England to send their wards and children to India to work in East India Company. So much so that East India Company was it's a kind of big big trading corporation where the aristocratic families and children were working. So it was very lucrative for the families. Another important feature of this season things is this was the first stage. Hence, State Company not introduced many changes, big changes in the education, society, culture, administration, judicial, transport, or communication, because they did not needed the things were the things that were going earlier on administration or judicial, and they just imposed their scheme of things on the existing things. Exception is permanent settlement, and no changes were introduced in cultural and social sector. Exception, the Sanskrit College in Banaras, and a Arabic and Farsi Center of Learning in Calcutta. These were the only changes that were introduced by East India Company in the first stage. So they were clear they would not introduce, because what they were doing, the changes they have introduced were in the military technology, in the structure of revenue collection, which we will discuss later. Administration at the top of the hierarchy to smoothen the flow of revenue. British rule did not very differ from the traditional Indian empire which had existed earlier. It was in second stage of colonialism that we will see how East India Company introduced changes. That changes which changed the Indian scenario, Indian life, the people of India, whether in agriculture sector or in other sector. So why there were only few changes were introduced? Because the two basic objectives did not require changes in socio-cultural administrative changes. Colonialism in its first stage can be superimposed on existing economic, cultural, political, and social structure, and it did not needed to, and the state company did not needed to penetrate into deep pockets of country, because the revenue required was easily gettable from without going to interiors. Large scale of drain of wealth was here in first stage, and it played an important role in financing industrial revolution in Britain, which we will discuss later. So what we have learned today was the colonialism, its brief meaning, types of colonialism, nature of colonialism, the three viewpoints regarding colonialism, essential features of colonialism, stages, features in 3 stages, and so next we will discuss many other things. Thank you.